Ashley, and I'm one of the youths here in EVO. Okay, so quick question. How many of you here enjoy playing sports? Yeah, okay. Yes, so same here. For me, I love to play basketball. And what I love most isn't just about the game itself, but about the teamwork. So there's just something special when people come together to work towards a common goal. Now, maybe sports isn't your thing. So how many of you are always listening to music? Like maybe on your AirPods, your phone, or whatever? Yes? So me too. So my music taste is all over the place. I listen to pop, R&B, indie, even a bit of folk music. And some of my favorite artists right now are Sabrina Carpenter, Conan Gray, and Noah Khan. So yes, fun fact, I have 105 playlists on Spotify. So I know it's a bit crazy, but I also always love finding new songs. So if you have any good recommendations, come let me know after. Okay, so last one. So how many of you here enjoy math? No? Okay, so maybe for some of you here, you might find it a bit boring, maybe a bit hard. So, but for me, it's opposite. So I've always loved numbers and patterns. And when I'm out with friends, I'm usually the one who grabs the bill and works out how much everyone owes. And it's kind of my superpower. So I love it so much that I'm even studying math in uni. And my dream is to become a math teacher one day. So yeah, a little about me. I love basketball, music, and math. All of us have our own mix of passion, quirks, and experiences. That's what makes us unique. And it is this uniqueness, who you are, what you enjoy, the skills you bring, and the background you come from, that makes what you do so meaningful. So, which brings me to the title of my message, Do Kindness. Kindness can be as small as a smile, a helping hand, a word of encouragement. The way I like to imagine kindness is like planting a seed. So when you put a tiny seed in the ground, at first, it doesn't look like much. It's small, it's invisible, almost invisible when it's buried. You could easily just step on it, ignore it, or throw it away. But when you plant it, it grows and it gets sunlight and water, something amazing happens. That little seed begins to grow into something much bigger, a tree. A tree that gives shade, tasty fruits to enjoy, and life for everything around it. And that one tree doesn't stay alone. It drops seeds, and those seeds grow into more trees, and before long, it's not just one tree here or one tree there. It's a whole forest. Beautiful, full of life. Now, imagine, what if kindness worked the same way? What if every small act of kindness we planted, a smile, a helping hand, a word of encouragement, didn't stop with us, but grew into something bigger? What if those small acts multiplied to the point where kindness wasn't rare, but normal? That's the kind of world that I believe Jesus calls us to build. And it starts small, a seed, a small act of kindness. Recently, I got to know about this 8-year-old boy named Mateo from Chicago. On his birthday, he got $23. So his mom wanted to celebrate, and she drove him down to a local toy store to buy Lego. And on the way there, they stopped at a traffic light where they met a woman who was selling candy. So Mateo did something completely unexpected, which was he gave her all $23 so that she could buy milk for her baby. And his mom captured the moment on TikTok, and it went viral, and people were inspired to continue his small act of kindness. Some people even offered to send gifts and money to Mateo, which he asked whether that money could be used to give to others instead, to help them buy food, buy food, clothes, and even help someone get a house. And he didn't stop there. Mateo wanted to spread the kindness further. So they went to a supermarket and noticed a family buying school supplies for their daughter, and Mateo went up to them and passed them $100 so that they could afford the school supplies, along with a small note that says, "God loves you." And the family was really deeply touched. So, how many of you are inspired by Mateo? So kindness sometimes starts from small actions like this. And sometimes it can make a huge difference. Maybe even change someone's life. And the cool thing is that we are all capable of that kindness. So today, I want to share about 3 simple ways to become kinder people in our everyday lives. The first is to take the first step. So sounds easy, right? But honestly, the first step is usually the hardest one. Jesus once shared a story in Luke 10, verse 30. A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho who he encountered thieves who stripped him naked, beat him up, and left him near death. So when he saw now it just so happened that a priest was also walking down that same road. When he saw the injured man, he crossed over to the other side and went on his way. Likewise, a Levite came by that spot, saw the injured man, and crossed over to the other side of the road and went on his way. A Samaritan who was on the journey came to where the man was, but when he saw him, he was moved with compassion, and the Samaritan went to him. So, pause here. The Samaritan didn't just feel bad for the man. He didn't walk away like the others. He went to him. He took the first step. In total, 3 people saw the injured man. The priest, a highly respected, important man, but he walked away. The Levite, also important, but he walked away too. But the Samaritan, someone everyone looked down on, considered religiously impure and was treated like an outsider, he did something different. He didn't wait, he didn't think, what will people think of me? He simply took the first step. And that's what kindness is like. It often begins when one person chooses to move first. Sometimes that first step can feel small, but small steps can create big change. Back in the 1970s, there was a woman in Sweden named Hilda Beck. She had escaped Nazi Germany as a little girl and survived because of the kindness of strangers. Years later, she grew up to become a teacher in Sweden when she decided that she wanted to help other kids get an education. So she began sponsoring a student in Kenya named Chris Maburo, and she did that by just giving a few dollars each month. Chris grew up in a rural village where many kids couldn't afford school, but with Hilda's help, he finished secondary school, went to university, and eventually studied law at Harvard. And later, he also became a human rights lawyer at the United Nations. But here's the part that inspires me. So Chris didn't just stop there, he wanted to give back. So in 2001, he started a scholarship fund in Kenya, the Hilda Beck Education Fund, named after the woman who helped him. Today, that fund has helped almost 1,000 students go to school, all because of one woman who decades earlier decided to take a small step of kindness. So she may not have been able to see the full impact of her gift, but her kindness is still changing lives today. And that's the power of one step. And it's the same for us. So now I know it might not look like sponsoring someone's education or saving lives, but it could look like this. Buying a meal for a friend who doesn't have enough money, making your parents a cup of coffee or tea when they're tired, checking on a classmate who looks down and simply asking, hey, are you okay? So it might feel small, maybe even awkward. You might even wonder if it matters. But just like the Samaritan, it starts when someone is willing to take the first step. Now, for some of us, taking that first step can be uncomfortable. Maybe some of us relate to the priest or Levite. It's not that they didn't see the man, they definitely did. But the road from Jerusalem to Jericho was very dangerous. So it winds through steep desert hills and rocky gorges, and the narrow passages and caves provided perfect hiding places for robbers and thieves. So if you slow down, you could be the next target. So maybe they thought, if I stop, what will happen to me? Maybe they were afraid, maybe they didn't want to take the risk. So fear can hold us back. For some of us, we want to be kind, but we hesitate because we are afraid what others might think. Maybe you want to say hi to the quiet kid in class, but you're worried your friends will tease you, like saying, hey, you like him, is it? Or you want to help a friend with homework, but you hold back because you don't want to look like a know-it-all. Or when your friends are gossiping and you want to say something kind about the person, but you're scared that the gossip will turn back on you instead. So instead of risking that judgment, we hold back. And the chance to be kind passes by. So in the 2019 Annual Graciousness Survey done by the Simple Kindness Movement, they found out some reasons why people might hold back from being kind. So, of all the reasons polled, 1 in 4 youths, aged 15 to 24, feared most of being kind to someone else in public. So, even though many of them donated money or volunteered before, 23% feared looking stupid, and another 11% feared being mocked on social media. So, one poly student in particular commented, even if you want to help, it may not be received, like giving up your seat, and that can be quite embarrassing. So if you ever thought, what if people laugh? What if they don't appreciate it? You're not the only one. In Matthew 5, verse 16, Jesus says, in the same way, let your light shine before people, so they can see the good things you do and praise your Father who is in heaven. So we may sometimes feel fearful of being judged, but every act of kindness matters. God sees it, and sometimes it's the smallest acts that make the biggest difference. So we may not know exactly what to do sometimes, but what matters is that we try anyway. When we walk towards someone instead of away, that is the first step towards kindness. And the more you do it, the braver you'll become, and the better you'll get at loving others. So here's my challenge to you, and you can write this down. What's one small step of kindness you can take this week? So it may feel scary, it may feel uncomfortable, but you're braver than you think, and your kindness can go further than you imagine. So taking the first step. Number 2 is to meet their needs. So let's continue the story where we left off. In verse 33, a Samaritan who was on a journey came to where the man was, but when he saw him, he was moved with compassion. The Samaritan went to him and bandaged his wounds, tending them with oil and wine. Then he placed the wounded man on his donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. So the Samaritan going to the man was the first step. But more than that, he noticed what the man needed and did his best to meet those needs. So he saw the wounds and he bandaged them. He realized the man couldn't walk, so he placed him on the donkey, and he knew he couldn't just leave him on the road. So he personally brought him to the inn and took care of him. So he was attentive to his needs. Now, being attentive doesn't always come naturally. Sometimes actually we think we're helping, but we're not. So sometimes the person that we are trying to help ends up helping us more than we actually help them. So it's like when you try to help a friend, with a math problem, but you misread the question, and 10 minutes later, your friend is explaining to you, and you realize you're even more confused. Or when your friend is leading a group project and you jump in thinking you're helping, but end up you do the parts of the work that someone else is doing instead. And the team gets confused and your friend has to step in and reorganize everything so that it actually gets done. So, sometimes it's not that we don't want to help, but if we are not paying attention, we might miss the real need. Then we end up becoming a hindrance instead of helping. So, some of us here are part of Third Space, which does youth events to help young people connect, lead, make an impact. And one of the projects that we have is called Tiny Acts of Love. The idea to spread kindness through little gestures. So once we visited St. Luke's Hospital, where many elderly patients spend their days in palliative care, and our goal was to spend time with them. So we came prepared. We had activities like bingo, flower folding, even conversation topics. But as we were talking to one patient, we ran out of things to talk about. And we actually finished the activities by then too. So we ended up sitting quietly for a bit, and the patient ended up facilitating the convo instead. So the patient asked us about what we did, who we are, what we do. And she later shared with us that whenever volunteers came, they only asked about how they are doing, but no one really shares about themselves. That really hit us because her biggest need wasn't about having more bingo activities or maybe more questions about her health. What she wanted was connection. She wanted someone to share life with her, not just talk at her. So we ended up opening up, telling her stories about our school life, what we enjoy, who we are. And as we did that, the atmosphere changed, at least with that one patient. It wasn't just us doing activities for her anymore. It became a real two-way friendship. And that's what it means to meet needs. Not just doing something nice, but noticing what will actually make a difference in that moment. And here's the thing, we won't always get it right. Sometimes we'll offer help when it's not needed, and that's okay. Because it's not about being perfect, it's about being thoughtful, attentive, and willing to adjust. That way, you're being sensitive and supportive. So there's another part to meeting needs. It's not just about what we do, it's also about why we do it. So we need to check our intentions. Sometimes we do kind things, but if you're being honest, it's actually more about us. Like donating old clothes when really we're just clearing our wardrobe without actually checking if the clothes are wearable. Or volunteering for VIA hours, but half the time we are scrolling on our phones. Or maybe giving juniors a tour in school, but it's more of a way for us to gain popularity. And you spend more time showing off than actually helping someone feel welcome. Now, the actions themselves aren't wrong. Donating, volunteering, guiding juniors, all good things. But if our intentions are off, our kindness won't have the same impact. So that's what I see different in the Samaritan. He didn't stop because he wanted to look like a hero. Remember, the road itself was dangerous. Stopping put his own life at risk as well. But he chose to put the man's need before his own convenience. And because of that, he didn't just do something nice, he saved a life. That's the heart of kindness. Not about how good you look or how good you feel. It's about the difference it makes. And here's the good news. You're already halfway there. You're already taking action. And now it's just a matter of lifting it higher and letting your heart match your hands. That's why Paul says in Philippians 2:4, don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourself long enough to lend a helping hand. In other words, don't stop at what can I get out of this. Instead, ask how can this help someone else? How does this genuinely make their life better? Listen, when you start thinking that way, your kindness grows bigger. It multiplies. For example, before donating clothes, sort them carefully, wash them, fold them, and give what you'll be proud to wear yourself. When you're volunteering, put your phone away, focus on the people you're serving, even if it's just listening to them. When you're guiding juniors in school, pay attention to what they're nervous about. Answer their questions, even if it takes more time. That's how small acts become powerful. So, here's the challenge. Be attentive, check your intentions, and meet the need. So my last point, be generous. Let's pick up the story one last time. In verse 35, the next day he took 2 full days' worth of wages and gave them to the innkeeper. He said, take care of him, and when I return, I will pay you back for any additional costs. So 2 full days of wages back then was a lot. This could have been money for his food, his transport, his medicine, his daily needs. But instead of keeping it for himself, the Samaritan gave it away to make sure that the man was fully taken care of. So, let's recap what the Samaritan has done so far. He saw the injured man, he went to him, and he patched his wounds. He put him on his donkey and brought him to the shelter. Then he gave 2 full days worth of wages. And on top of all that, he promised to come back and pay for any additional costs. That's a lot to do for someone you don't even know. And that's generosity. Going the extra mile, doing more than what is expected or needed. Sometimes we hesitate to be generous because it feels costly. It takes up precious time or energy. Like the priest or Levite in the story, when they saw the man, they went on their way. And perhaps they really had somewhere important to go. Maybe they didn't want to be delayed. And some of us can relate to that. We have so many commitments, both in and outside of school, from doing well in our studies, to CCA, to tuition, and so on, that if we were to give more of our time or energy, we'll have less for ourselves. Or worse yet, people take advantage of your generosity and keep on taking, never giving back. But here's something to change your perspective. Generosity isn't about losing something, it's about choosing to share what you have in a way that lifts others up. And oftentimes, it ends up lifting you up as well. So maybe some of you might say, I really don't have much to give. So perhaps you hesitate when it comes to giving. Maybe you grew up with less, or you've had to be careful with what you share. Or maybe deep down you think, maybe what I have isn't good enough. It won't make a difference anyway. And I get that, that feeling is real. But here's what I want to challenge you with. Generosity isn't about how much you have, it's about what you do with what's already in your hands. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give isn't your money or your time or your talent, it's your story, even your struggles. So think about the Samaritan. He wasn't someone who was rich or powerful. He was from a group that people looked down on. And maybe because of that, he knew what it was like to be marginalized, to be ignored, to be passed by. And that very part of his story, the pain of being overlooked, gave him the compassion to stop for another man who had been overlooked. So in the same way, your background, your struggles, your story, they don't disqualify you. They actually make you the best person to be generous with kindness. And because when others might not understand, you can say, I've been there and I get it. So there are many stories, so many stories of youth making a difference, and one of them is Imran. When he was 15, he and his family, his parents and his younger brother moved into a tiny 2-room shelter. Space was tight, privacy was almost non-existent, and studying was really tough. So after 2 years, they finally qualified for a rental flat in Woodlands where they've been living ever since. And having experienced what it's like to have very little, Imran wanted to help others in similar situations. So during COVID, he was inspired by the number of social initiatives started and decided to start one of his own. So he gathered some classmates, raised over $2,000 and distributed food packages to essential workers. And seeing the impact, he organized another food fundraiser for Hari Raya, giving away snacks and drinks to needy families. In his words, he said, I know what it feels like to have nothing, so I really understand how our beneficiaries feel. From there, he started the Imran Min Volunteers Network. His dream was to create a platform for youth to volunteer so that they could reap the same benefits that he had received growing up. And together with a team of 5, Imran runs regular activities for youth aged 11 to 20 and from house decluttering to community cleanups and food distribution drives. Every 4th week of the month, they also gather to hand out food ration packages to about 60 residents in rental flats. So when asked how he copes with so many responsibilities and yet still thinks of helping others, he replied, of course, juggling these commitments isn't easy, but seeing the smiles on the people I've helped and being able to meet different mentors from all walks of life keeps me going. And that's the beauty of generosity. It's not about looking like a hero. It's about offering your story, your struggles, your lessons, and letting God use that to bring kindness and hope to someone else. So don't count yourself out. You are more capable than you think. And you can be generous right where you are with whatever you have. And your life, yes, your life, can make a difference in someone else's life. And that's probably why Jesus chose to make the hero of his story a Samaritan, to show that anybody's story, even someone society looks down on, can be used to inspire others and make a difference. Listen, God has a purpose for you, and He has made you to make an impact right where you are. So generosity isn't about giving, just about giving more stuff. It's about giving yourself, your presence, your compassion, your story. And that's all for my message.